The crisp autumn air bit at my exposed skin as we paddled our canoes deeper into the Allagash wilderness. A sense of foreboding, like a thin veil of ice, settled over me. It wasn't the isolation, nor the eerie stillness of the ancient pines that unnerved me. No, it was something more primal, a feeling of being watched, hunted. My three friends, oblivious to my growing unease, laughed and joked, their voices echoing across the water. We were young then, seeking adventure in the heart of Maine, a million miles away from the anxieties of our everyday lives. We hadn't expected this creeping dread, this sense of an unseen presence lurking just beyond our perception. As dusk bled into night, we set up camp on a small, secluded island. The fire crackled, casting dancing shadows that stretched and contorted, taking on monstrous shapes in my increasingly agitated mind. We told stories, the kind designed to make you jump at every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig. But the real terror, I knew, lay not in our campfire tales, but in the oppressive silence that followed, punctuated only by the distant hoot of an owl. Suddenly, the fire sputtered and died, plunging us into an impenetrable darkness. A collective gasp escaped our lips as a blinding light, like a second sun, erupted in the sky above us. It pulsed and throbbed, casting an otherworldly glow that turned the familiar landscape into something alien and terrifying. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the light vanished, leaving behind an echoing silence and a residue of fear that clung to us like cobwebs. We checked our watches, our hearts pounding in our chests. 3 hours. 3 whole hours were just gone. A gaping hole in our memory, a void where time should have been. We searched each other's faces, our eyes wide with a terror we couldn't articulate. Something had happened, something inexplicable, something that chilled us to the very bone. The next morning, we packed up camp, eager to escape the unsettling atmosphere of the island. We paddled back to civilization in a tense silence, the unspoken question hanging heavy in the air. What had happened to us during those missing hours? Life went on. We graduated, got jobs, started families. But the Allagash incident, as we came to call it, remained a dark stain on our memories, a shared trauma we rarely spoke about. Then the nightmares began. Vivid, horrifying nightmares that seemed more like fragmented memories than dreams. We each experienced them, separately at first, then with increasing frequency and intensity. We were in a cold, metallic room, strapped to tables, our bodies exposed. Strange, shadowy figures loomed over us, their faces obscured by masks, their touch chillingly invasive. We saw instruments, needles, and a sense of overwhelming dread that clung to us even after we woke up. Our bodies bathed in cold sweat, our hearts racing. We knew then with a certainty that defied logic that we hadn't just seen a light that night. We had been taken, abducted. And whatever had happened to us on that ship, it was starting to surface, clawing its way back into our conscious minds. The nightmares escalated. They became more vivid, more visceral. New details emerged, horrifying fragments of memories we desperately wished to repress. I saw a long, needle-like instrument pierce my skin, felt a searing pain that echoed through my body even in my waking hours. My friends recounted similar experiences, each one more disturbing than the last. We saw grotesque creatures with large black eyes and elongated limbs. We saw our own bodies laid out on cold, metallic tables, probed and examined like specimens under a microscope. The shared trauma bound us together in a way nothing else could. We were united in our fear, in our desperate need to understand what had happened to us. We sought answers, devouring every book and article we could find on alien abductions. We even contacted a support group, finding solace in the shared experiences of others who had encountered the unknown. But nothing could truly prepare us for the chilling realization that dawned on us slowly, insidiously. It started with a recurring image in my nightmares. A small metallic object being implanted under my skin just below my left ear. At first, I dismissed it as just another horrifying detail in the tapestry of my abduction. But then, one by one, my friends recounted the same vision, the same chilling procedure. We each had an implant, a tiny tracker hidden beneath our skin, a constant reminder of our terrifying ordeal. Driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, we decided to see a doctor. The initial examination revealed nothing unusual, but an MRI scan showed something shocking. A small foreign object lodged in the exact spot we had described in each of us. The doctors were baffled. They couldn't explain the origin of the implants, nor their purpose. But for us, it was the final confirmation. We were not just victims of a random abduction. We were subjects in a larger experiment, a terrifying game played by forces beyond our comprehension. The discovery of the implant sent a new wave of terror through us. We felt violated, marked, like cattle branded by an unseen rancher. The nightmares intensified, now laced with a new sense of urgency, a feeling that we were running out of time. We began to experience strange physical symptoms, nosebleeds, headaches, and a constant low-level nausea. We felt watched, followed, our every move scrutinized by unseen eyes. The feeling of dread that had haunted me since that night on the Allagash deepened, transforming into a full-blown paranoia that threatened to consume us all. The paranoia became a living thing, a constant companion whispering doubts and fears into our ears. We started seeing patterns where there were none, interpreting every coincidence as a sign of surveillance. A car lingering too long at an intersection, a stranger's fleeting glance, a news report about unexplained lights in the sky. Everything fueled our growing sense of dread. We became obsessed, spending hours poring over maps of the Allagash, analyzing satellite images, searching for any clue that might explain our abduction. We even returned to the island, drawn back to the scene of our trauma like moths to a flame. The place was unchanged, eerily peaceful, the silence broken only by the wind rustling through the pines and the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. Yet an invisible weight pressed down on us, a sense of unseen eyes watching our every move. One cool evening, as we sat around a campfire, the flames casting long, dancing shadows, we noticed something strange. Our compasses were spinning wildly, their needles gyrating in a chaotic dance. A chill ran down my spine. This was no ordinary magnetic interference. It felt like something was trying to communicate with us, to draw us back to the water. Driven by an impulse we couldn't explain, we launched our canoes and paddled out onto the lake. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery path across the water. As we reached the center of the lake, a dense fog rolled in, enveloping us in a cold, damp embrace. The air crackled with static electricity, and a low hum vibrated through the canoes, resonating deep within our bones. Suddenly, the water beneath us began to churn. A monstrous shape emerged from the depths, its silhouette illuminated by the moon. It was massive, with a sleek, metallic body and glowing, pulsating lights. Fear gripped us, paralyzing us with its intensity. We were trapped, caught in the open, with no escape from the creature that had haunted our nightmares. As the creature rose higher out of the water, its true form became horrifyingly clear. It was a colossal, biomechanical monstrosity, a fusion of organic and metallic parts. Its eyes, huge and black, fixed on us with an intelligence that chilled us to the core. A long, fleshy appendage snaked out from its body, reaching towards us with terrifying speed. We screamed, our voices lost in the vastness of the wilderness. The creature's appendage wrapped around one of my friends, lifting him effortlessly into the air. His screams echoed across the lake, a desperate cry swallowed by the night. Then, with a sickening crunch, he was gone, pulled into the depths of the creature's gaping maw. Panic seized us. We paddled furiously, desperate to escape the creature's grasp. But it was too late. The creature lunged again, its massive jaws closing around another friend. His terrified face, frozen in a mask of horror, was the last thing I saw before he disappeared into the creature's maw. I was next. The creature's shadow fell over me, blotting out the moon. Its putrid breath washed over me, a stench of decay and something else, something alien and indescribably foul. I closed my eyes, bracing for the inevitable. But the agonizing crunch never came. Instead, a blinding light erupted from the creature's depths, illuminating the fog with an eerie, pulsating glow. I shielded my eyes, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. When I dared to look again, the creature was gone, vanished into thin air. The only evidence of its presence was the lingering stench and the swirling fog, now tinged with an otherworldly luminescence. My remaining friend and I sat in stunned silence, our bodies trembling with shock and adrenaline. We paddled back to shore, our minds reeling from the horrifying encounter. The creature, the abduction, the implants, it all felt like a terrifying nightmare, a grotesque hallucination. But the lingering fear, the raw grief for our lost friends, and the gnawing sense of dread were all too real. We abandoned the campsite, fleeing the Allagash as if the devil himself were on our heels. We never spoke of what we had seen, the memory too horrific to share, even with each other. The nightmares continued, but now they were different. They were no longer fragmented memories of the abduction, but terrifying visions of the creature, its grotesque form forever seared into our minds. Years passed. We tried to move on, to rebuild our lives shattered by that nightmarish encounter. But the Allagash incident remained a dark shadow, a constant reminder of the horrors we had witnessed and the friends we had lost. The implants remained, a physical manifestation of our trauma. We learned to live with them, with the constant fear that we were still being watched, monitored, controlled. Then, one day, I received a cryptic message from my remaining friend. He had discovered something that explained everything. He urged me to meet him at a remote cabin in the woods, a place where we could talk without fear of being overheard. Intrigued and terrified, I agreed. As I drove to the cabin, a sense of foreboding washed over me. The familiar dread, the feeling of being watched, returned with a vengeance. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap, that this meeting was not what it seemed. When I arrived at the cabin, I found my friend waiting for me, his face pale and drawn. He looked older, his eyes filled with a haunted expression I had never seen before. He led me inside, locking the door behind us. Then he turned to me, his voice trembling with fear and excitement. "I know what they want," he whispered. "I know why they took us." He pulled out a file, its contents filled with research, news articles, and declassified government documents. He had spent years piecing together the puzzle, following a trail of breadcrumbs that led him to a terrifying truth. The aliens weren't just abducting people. They were breeding them. He pointed to a grainy photograph in the file. It showed a group of children, their eyes large and black, their skin pale and translucent. They looked eerily familiar, like distorted versions of the faces I had seen in my nightmares. "These are the hybrids," my friend explained, his voice barely a whisper. "They're the result of the experiments, the offspring of humans and aliens, and we are the fathers." The words hung in the air, heavy with horror and disbelief. I stared at the photograph, my mind reeling from the implications. The abductions, the implants, the creature, it all made sense now. We were not just victims. We were breeding stock, selected for some unknown purpose, our genetic material harvested to create a new race of beings. Suddenly a loud banging echoed through the cabin. We froze, our blood turning to ice. The banging grew louder, more insistent. Someone was outside trying to get in. My friend grabbed a rifle from the corner of the room, his eyes wide with fear. "We have to get out of here," he whispered. "They've found us." As he moved towards the door, a blinding light filled the cabin. The rifle clattered to the floor, and my friend's eyes rolled back in his head. He collapsed, his body convulsing on the floor. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest. The light intensified, and a familiar hum vibrated through the cabin. I knew what was coming. They were back. The door burst open and a figure stepped into the cabin. It was tall and slender, with pale skin and large black eyes. It wore a simple white robe and its face was devoid of any emotion. It looked at me, its eyes piercing my soul. Then it spoke, its voice a chilling whisper that echoed through my mind. "It's time to go home, Father." The alien's words seemed to reverberate through my very being, a chilling echo in the hollow chambers of my fear-stricken mind. My friend lay motionless on the floor, his eyes still wide with terror, a testament to the alien's power. I was paralyzed, caught in the grip of an unseen force, unable to move or speak. The alien gestured towards the door, and I felt an irresistible compulsion to obey. My legs moved as if controlled by an invisible puppeteer, carrying me towards the blinding light that spilled from the open doorway. As I crossed the threshold, the cabin, my friend, and the world I knew vanished, replaced by a swirling vortex of colors and shapes that defied comprehension. I found myself in a sterile white room, strapped to a cold metallic table. The familiar scent of antiseptic and fear hung heavy in the air. Above me, a blinding light illuminated the room, casting harsh shadows that danced and writhed like macabre specters. I tried to scream, to fight against the restraints, but my body refused to obey. I was a prisoner once again, at the mercy of these beings who had haunted my life for so long. The alien from the cabin entered the room, its white robe flowing behind it like a ghostly apparition. It approached the table, its black eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. It raised its hand, and a thin, needle-like instrument materialized in its grasp. "We need to extract the seed," it said, its voice a chilling whisper that seemed to penetrate my very soul. Panic surged through me, a tidal wave of fear that threatened to drown me. I thrashed against the restraints, my muscles straining against the unyielding metal. But it was futile. I was helpless, a mere pawn in their twisted game. The alien approached, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the agonizing pain. But instead of the sharp prick of the needle, I felt a strange warmth spread through my body, a soothing sensation that lulled me into a state of drowsy compliance. Images flashed before my eyes, fragmented memories of the abduction, the creature, the implants. But now the memories were different. They were clearer, more vivid, as if a veil had been lifted from my mind. I saw myself on the alien ship, not as a terrified victim, but as a willing participant, my body moving with an eerie grace, my eyes filled with an alien hunger. I saw the creature, not as a monstrous abomination, but as a magnificent being, a symbol of power and evolution. I saw the implants, not as trackers, but as conduits, connecting me to a vast network of consciousness, a collective mind that spanned the galaxy. And then I saw the hybrids. They were not the grotesque creatures I had imagined. They were beautiful, ethereal beings, with skin that shimmered like moonlight and eyes that glowed with an inner light. They were the future, the next step in evolution, a perfect blend of human and alien DNA. And I realized with a growing sense of horror, was their progenitor. The alien leaned closer, its voice a seductive whisper. "You are one of us now," it said. "You are part of something greater, something beyond your wildest dreams." I opened my eyes, and the world shifted around me. The sterile white room dissolved, replaced by a vast organic chamber pulsating with life and energy. Around me, hybrids moved with an ethereal grace, their eyes filled with a wisdom that transcended human understanding. The alien smiled, a chilling expression that revealed rows of sharp, needle-like teeth. "Welcome home, Father," it said. The chamber pulsed with an organic rhythm, a symphony of alien life that vibrated through my very being. The hybrids, my offspring, moved with an ethereal grace, their eyes radiating an intelligence that dwarfed my own. I was no longer a prisoner, but a participant, a vital part of this alien ecosystem. The fear that had haunted me for so long evaporated, replaced by a sense of awe and wonder. The alien, my guide, explained their purpose. They were not conquerors, but cultivators, seeding the galaxy with hybrid life, a new race that would transcend the limitations of both human and alien. I was a chosen one, a vessel for their grand experiment, a father to a new generation of beings. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. I learned their language, their customs, their philosophy. I explored the vast ship, a living organism in its own right, filled with wonders beyond my comprehension. I interacted with the hybrids, my children, marveling at their intelligence, their compassion, their connection to the universe. But a nagging doubt lingered in the back of my mind. What about my friends? What about the ones who were taken? The ones who were consumed by the creature? Were they also part of this grand experiment? Or were they merely casualties, sacrifices in the name of progress? I confronted the alien, demanding answers. It looked at me with its black, unblinking eyes, its expression unreadable. They served their purpose, it said, its voice devoid of emotion. Their genetic material was valuable, but their consciousness was incompatible with our process. A wave of nausea washed over me. My friends, my companions, were nothing more than breeding stock, their lives extinguished without a second thought. The horror of their fate crashed down on me, shattering the illusion of harmony and purpose. I tried to rebel, to fight against the aliens, to escape the ship. But I was no match for their advanced technology, their telepathic abilities. I was trapped, a prisoner in a gilded cage, a father to a race I never wanted to create. Then one day I discovered a hidden chamber deep within the ship. It was filled with pods, each containing a human body, suspended in a state of suspended animation. Among them, I recognized my friends, their faces frozen in a mask of terror. The alien explained that these were failed experiments, individuals whose consciousness had rejected the hybridization process. They were kept alive, their bodies preserved, in case their genetic material was needed in the future. A surge of rage coursed through me. These were not just bodies, they were my friends. My companions, stolen from their lives, their memories, their futures. I had to do something to save them, to avenge their suffering. I devised a plan, a desperate gamble to free my friends and escape the ship. I would use the aliens' own technology against them, overloading the ship's systems, creating a chaotic diversion that would allow us to escape. The plan was risky, fraught with danger, but it was our only hope. I put my plan into action, hacking into the ship's systems, manipulating its controls. The ship lurched violently, alarms blared, and the aliens scrambled to regain control. I raced to the chamber, releasing my friends from their pods. We fought our way through the ship, dodging alien guards, evading security systems. The ship shook and groaned, its systems on the verge of collapse. We reached an escape pod, launching ourselves into the vastness of space. As we hurtled away from the ship, I looked back, watching as it exploded in a blinding flash of light. The aliens, my children, the hybrids, they were all gone, consumed by the inferno. We were free. But the victory was bittersweet. My friends were alive, but they were changed, their minds scarred by the trauma they had endured. And I was no longer the man I once was. I was a father, a creator, a destroyer. I carried the burden of a terrible knowledge, the weight of a galaxy on my shoulders. We returned to Earth, to a world that seemed both familiar and alien. We tried to rebuild our lives, to forget the horrors we had witnessed. But the Allagash incident remained a dark stain on our souls, a constant reminder of the terrifying truth. We are not alone, and we are not in control. The final twist. Years later, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. My friends were gone, their lives cut short by the trauma of their abduction. I was alone, haunted by the memories, the guilt, the burden of knowledge. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my abdomen. I looked down and saw a small metallic object protruding from my skin. It was an implant, another one, placed there without my knowledge. I reached for it, my fingers trembling. As I pulled it out, a wave of dizziness washed over me. Images flashed before my eyes, fragmented memories of another abduction, another experiment, another purpose. I looked up at the sky, my heart filled with dread. They had been watching me all along. They had never let me go. And now they were back. The last thing I saw was a blinding light descending from the heavens, its alien glow illuminating the night. The cycle had begun anew.